Good evening, all, and welcome to this INA technical session number 9 of 2024 on a very interesting and topic on ship recycling. Our chief guest of the day is Mr. Soumitra Neogi. He is a professor of practice at Marine Engineering and Technology at IMU Kolkata. And today's presenter will be Mr. Amol Bhaskar Bande, Senior Surveyor at Indian Institute of Shipping. It is my privilege now to introduce both the chief guest and the speaker. Mr. Soumitra Neogi graduated from Indian Maritime University, erstwhile DMET Kolkata in 1981, and thereafter stayed in various types of ships for many years after becoming a chief engineer also. And then he moved from sea to shore and worked as a ship and industrial surveyor for Lloyd's Register of Shipping UK. While working in LRS, he also became a lead auditor. After a long stint with LRS, he joined an American company as vice president operations with manufacturing units in India and Malaysia, and in 2006 switched to new building projects in South Korea, China, and Japan as ship owners consultant. Post-COVID in mid-2023, he joined Indian Maritime University as a professor of practice. Sir, we welcome you to this webinar as the chief guest.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's also my privilege to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Amol Bhaskar Bande, a mechanical engineer by qualification with over 20 years of work experience in marine sector. He currently holds a position as a senior surveyor in Indian Institute of Shipping, responsible for heading the inventory of hazardous materials and ship recycling services, along with works approval, type approval certification, including EU ROMR and MED certification scheme offered by IRS. Contributing to India's ship recycling sector since 2009 in various roles and capacities as an auditor, trainer, representing IAX in ICS International Working Group, a member of several committees to DG Shipping and Ministry of Shipping India, responsible for drafting Recycling of Ship Act 2019, rules on ship recycling and regulations on ship recycling. One of the first few qualified hazmat expert, is also responsible for certification of first 4 ship recycling facilities in India to EU's independent verifier criteria. A sound knowledge of ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 30000, coupled with HKC and EU SRR, carried out numerous ship recycling facility certifications in the capacity as an auditor. Welcome you for this webinar, sir. And now I request you to give your talks, Mr. Bande.
Thank you, Dr. Iyengar, for introducing. This was a nice, kind introduction from your side. Before I start my session, let me thank Dr. Karula and Mr. H.V. Ramesh for considering me worthwhile to be a part of this INA session and introduce this topic of ship recycling today. I also want to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Soumitra, Mr. Shri Soumitra Neogi. Welcome, sir. Nice to see you for the first time. And from the participants, I can see my mentor who has introduced me in this field, my Mr. Ullas Kalgatki. I can see he's one of the attendees of the session. So I am thankful to Kalgatki sir also. And with this, the other dignitaries of the INA, I'm deeply thankful to them. And with this introduction, I would like to share my screen and start the presentation on the ship recycling. Just confirm if the presentation is visible to you. Is the screen visible, sir?
No, not yet, sir.
Not yet?
Still loading.
Okay.
Maybe you can reshare if that helps. Still. Yeah, we can see your screen, sir. We can bring the presentation.
Okay. Is this?
Yeah, we can
slide
see
it is.
Okay.
You can start the screen. Perfect. Yeah, we can see the full screens.
Yeah. So this ship recycling, this will be the outline of our presentation. We will be discussing on the ship recycling, its importance. Then we will see some information regarding national regulations, international regulations, basically Hong Kong Convention and EU ship recycling regulation. Then we will have this application of ship recycling to the ships, mostly the new and existing ships, and I will focus on new building ships because I think this is the right forum to talk about new building ship. For existing ship, I had already addressed the existing ships many times, but for the new building ship, I have got this opportunity. So I am focusing more on the new building ship part of this. Then we will quickly see something around how to build the inventory of hazardous material for new building ship, and then what is required from the shipyard to meet the requirements of the HKC. So this is my brief outline of the presentation will be today. Just if you allow me, I'll just 1 minute. I'll just stop my video. It's okay, sir?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So this ship recycling, if we say ship recycling, there are 3 stages we can see. There is a ship building stage, there is a stage for ship operating, and there is a ship recycling. So far, what was happening is we can see a lot of people were interested in new building ship. The shipyards, the shipbuilders, then owners are interested in shipbuilding, and the quality was ensured that the ships are built to a quality with the requirements of classification societies and being surveyed. And thereafter, the ships are operated with all certification and licenses. But the third stage of recycling, that is the end of life of ship, that was somewhat was not addressed previously. So in 2009, with the introduction of Hong Kong Convention, I think IMO has focused on this aspect of recycling and to ensure that the ship recycling will happen in a most safe and sound environmental manner. It will take care of the people who are working in the ship recycling yard, their health, their safety, as well as the environment. So that will be protected. So that was the basic trigger from where the focus on ship recycling has started getting the momentum. And as we can see today, I am discussing on ship recycling. So this is the outcome of the Hong Kong Convention, which was adopted in 2009. So we can say it has serving its purpose, and it is bringing more awareness to the people, to the industry and the stakeholders who are participating in the global cause of protecting the environment, ensuring the safety of the ship recycling personnels, and ensuring the health as well. So going further, I think all the attendees must have seen the animation. So the idea was here to explain the ship recycling, right from the ship comes to the shore for recycling to the what happens to the ship. So basically, this is an activity of dismantling of ship. So it is exactly, you can say it is opposite of a shipbuilding, where the ship is built from component wise, plate to plate, panel wise. Then it is assembled and given a one product form. So here the process is exactly opposite. Ship is brought to shore, it is dismantled, then it is brought to the level of each parts and components, and then they are further taken away for reprocessing, they are taken for reuse, and the hazardous materials or even the waste that has been treated. And likewise, this is the exactly opposite of the shipbuilding process. So when we say there is a production in ship recycling, this production is itself is a deconstruction of the ship. So for those who are not familiar with the ship recycling work environment or this thing, I am adding some photographs to get some idea. So this you can see here, this is happening. This is a beaching layout. It is as generally called on. The ship is brought to shore. You can see on the left side. On the right side, you can see one ship which is partly cut, and the people are just engaged in reducing the ship one by one. So here the process has started from the fore, and the ship will be brought to the shore as soon as one section wise, each section is cut. After that, ship is pulled ahead, and again the next section is cut, and the process continues till the end of ship is addressed for recycling. Once brought on ship, these parts are generally cleaned, washed, and then it is further broken into the pieces, and these pieces are then further given to the interested parties. We will see about that later. So this is another diagram, another picture. So these are old pictures actually. This is the environment has increased a lot. The practices has been changed. Stop me if there is any clarification required in these pictures. Now we can see here the parts are segregated in a storage place. So likewise, all the parts will be stored in a storage area. And from here, they will be sold to the recyclers or maybe a scrap parties or whomsoever buyer is interested. So the ship is now broken into pieces, and this is the final outcome, what we can see here. So this is being used for other industries as a raw material. So in a brief, I think the activity or the ship recycling is clear, the definition of ship recycling. Then what is the importance of ship recycling? So it is providing direct and indirect employment generation opportunities to a lot of workmen or workforce. And here the specialty is that many unskilled people, they get the employment opportunity. Unlike you need a very highly qualified education staff, here the requirements are not that this thing, only the people who undergoes the basic kind of a training. And after that, the on-job training, they get experienced, and these people get the livelihood, and they can have a employment in some direct, indirect form. This industry also gives a spin-off to other industries. So which are other industries? This is like a re-roaring mills. In India, whatever the construction materials we see, normally which are used for the real estate, all small bars and sections of which the grills are made. So these are basically directly re-rolled to a mills which are nearby to these ship recycling yards. So it is a direct spin-off. There is no processing is required. The materials are directly heated and brought to the form and then supplied in the to the other industry. Then it gives reusable materials and equipment. So what are these reusable materials and equipment? These are basically all the ship machineries, DG sets. You have a DG set, you have engines, then the firefighting appliances, life-saving appliances, and all deck machineries. So other industries or other domestic purpose, these equipments are getting reused. So many people are refurbishing, repairing, reconditioning these equipments, and they are using this. So one saves on cost. Then the suppliers of oxygen and LPG gas, the industry being a cutting activity, this industry needs huge supply of oxygen and LPG gas. So here I'll tell one example during COVID when there was a shortage of oxygen. So all the ship recycling yards which are in Alang, they were giving this supplying the oxygen at the need of hour. So this because they have the inbuilt plants, they have helped our government to get the supply of oxygen. Then the other scrap processors. So this scrap processors involves ferrous, non-ferrous materials, electronic waste, plastics, and all other things, rubbers. So where we say scrap processor, the scrap is directly getting supplied to the steel making factories. So even the non-ferrous materials are going to the brass and copper making factories. So we are saving a lot of cost on iron ore and the energy being used for making a raw steel from the first principle. Then sellers of second-hand products such as furnitures and fittings. So if somebody has visited Alang, one can see a lot of shops are set up on the roadside. They are selling all furniture, all galley equipments, cutlery, doors, and all other domestic kind of thing which are getting absorbed in our real estate and the restaurant kind of industry. So this is basically, if you see all these terms in the near, now this is called as a, all this new term has been given, the circular economy kind of a thing or green steel. So all these terms, basically, these are already happening, and the terms are used by people. So they are at, even the green steel, if you say one green steel, it is nothing but it is made from the steel is made from basically the raw materials which are getting from the recycled steel. So here is one, I want to just in a pictorial format, what is happening with the ship being dismantled. So it is a self-explanatory chart. One can go through it. I have already discussed all these items. Shall I move ahead?
Sir, you can move on. Sir.
Okay. Okay, so here is one interesting figures I want to put here specifically for the participants. So on the left column or the first column, one can see vessel type, which is segregating all these oil tankers, bulk carriers, and cargo containers, cargo carriers, container ships, gas carriers. And on the right side, we can see the name of the countries: Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, Turkey, China, rest of the world, and world share and percentage share. So here one can see that in terms of percentage share on the down line, here is my, oh sorry. So if one sees for the year 2022, Bangladesh has contributed around 37.2% share, Pakistan 16.9%, Indian share is 32.3%, Turkey 6.3%, China 2.5%, and the rest of the world is 5%. So one can make out from here that Bangladesh and India is sharing the major contribution of world recycling, followed by Pakistan and then Turkey. So between Bangladesh and India, it happens to be stiff competition. Sometimes India gets number one, sometimes Bangladesh happens to be number one. So one can see, like it is said, shipping is an international business. All ship owners, mostly from the Europe, ships getting built in countries like Korea and China. All ships are being recycled in Southeast Asia. So this happens to be a true for this industry, that shipping is really an international business. Then one can also see here in 2022, 7.5 million GT, which represents around less than 0.5% of the world GT of the active ship, is recycled, has been sent for recycling in 2022. So what does it mean? It means that additional capacity has been created for getting the new ships built. Unless you take out the old ship, any old ship, it gives way for a new ship. So because the owners, they sell old ship for recycling and get the new orders for the new building. So here the next expression, tankers, were the largest contributing in 2022, followed by 31% gas carriers. Sorry, there is some bulk carriers 31%, gas carriers around 2%, and container ships around 3%. So one can also make out a market dynamics from this figure, that in 2022 there was less demand for tankers and bulk carriers, while there was a very high demand for container ships and carriers. This was owing to effect of a COVID, and being now in 2024 due to ongoing conflicts at the international level between the various countries and blockage of channels. So there is also less volume of ship recycling is coming to Alang as of my knowledge. So probably this percentage share of world GT will fall down maybe for the year 2024. So this was a brief introduction of the ship recycling, though it has many aspects. So being today's session very focused, I touched upon this ship recycling. Now we will see something on the national and international legislative frameworks. As far as India is concerned, India was governed with Shipbreaking Code 2013. So this shipbreaking code was a result of a Supreme Court order in 2008, and the shipbreaking code was introduced in 2013. So this was now further formulated, converted into Recycling of Ships Act to 2019. Since India acceded the Hong Kong Convention in around end of 2018, so it was paramount to have our own Recycling of Ships Act in line with the requirements of Hong Kong Convention. Then for Bangladesh, there is a Ship Recycling Act 2018. Currently, these regulatory frameworks, they are important. For the rest of the countries, like EU countries, there is a EU regulation is there, so that is not covered. And other countries, they are not handling much of the recycling volume. Moving forward, internationally, we have two major regulatory frameworks. One is the upcoming Hong Kong International Convention for safe and environmentally sound recycling of ships. And the other one, which is already in the force, is a EU ship recycling regulation. We will see on this in detail. So when I say convention, it is it's a Hong Kong Convention, also known as a here convention, or it is also known as a HKC. So the scope of the convention is the design, the construction, operation and preparation of ships so as to facilitate safe and environmental sound recycling without compromising the safety and operational efficiency of the ships. So here one can see the design aspect and the construction aspect. So these two aspects goes with this forum of naval architects. The convention expects that the ship is designed to cater for recycling aspects or recycling methodology, and the construction also should be in such a manner that it should help recycling industry to recycle it in a safe and environmentally sound manner. Okay, and these two without compromising the safety and operational efficiency of ships. So here the engagement of the shipbuilding yards and the engagement of the naval architects is of paramount importance. Then the second, this second scope was with respect to the ship recycling facilities, the operation of ship recycling facilities in a safe and environmentally sound manner. So convention expects that ship should be safe. Ship should be designed so that they can be properly recycled, and the ship recycling facility should recycle the ships in a safe and environmentally sound manner. And this is done, this has to be with a appropriate enforcement mechanism for ship recycling. So when establishment of an appropriate enforcement means the country or the administration, the flag administration has to ensure that the requirements of the conventions are enforced properly within the country. So this thing will happen with the introduction of Recycling of Ships Act. The goal of convention is to protect by strict control human health and the environment against the adverse effects resulting from the generation and management of hazardous waste and hazardous waste. So if I think the forum or the attendees all might be knowing that the ship recycling or ship breaking industry was called as one of the dangerous industry to work in. So why this was happening? Because there were some issues, or I will say there are some issues which has been addressed quite a lot, but there were issues related to human health, there were issues related to safety, and there were issues related to environment. So I need not get into details of that. As far as the hazardous materials are concerned, there were the health hazards. So health hazards are something which comes up after maybe a long time working, having an exposure in the industry. So this is the goal of the convention. The convention is applicable to ships above 500 GT, excluding warships, naval auxiliary ships, and other governmentally operated ships which are on non-commercial services. And this also, the convention also excludes ships which are domestically operated throughout the jurisdiction of the state for their lifetime. Though Hong Kong Convention was adopted in 2009, it has taken a lot of years to meet the ratification criteria. So finally, it made ratification on 26 June 2023 when Bangladesh signed the convention, followed by Liberia. And as per the entry into force criteria, the convention is going to be entered into force from 26 June 2025. So barely around 7 months are remaining for the convention to get into force. The convention applies to new ships and existing ships both. So this is the one structure of the Hong Kong Convention. So this is the main convention has 21 articles, and followed by annex to the convention, which has got around 25 regulations. And further, the convention is giving 6 guidelines. The first guideline MEPC 379/80 is the guideline for the development of inventory of hazardous materials. So this is something applicable for the new ship as well as existing ship. And where this is important for the new building yards. Then the second guideline, MEPC 196/62, this is for development of ship recycling plan. Then third guideline, MEPC 210/63, is for basically ship recycling facility. It addresses the requirements for the ship recycling facility and gives guidelines on safe and environmentally sound ship recycling. The fourth guideline is for the, we can say, administration or RO. This is on authorization of ship recycling facility, MEPC 211/63. The fifth guideline, MEPC, this is on the survey and certification of ships on the 1 minute. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
1 minute.
You're audible. You're audible.
You're audible.
Something happened, connection lost. Okay, so slide is appearing again.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
30 seconds.
The fifth guideline is MEPC 222/64. This guideline is for again for RO or administration. This is applicable to ships. The fourth one was applicable to ship recycling facilities. This is, and the last guideline, MEPC 223/64. This is for the inspection of ships under Hong Kong Convention. So it gives the guidance to the Port State Control and Flag Administration to have the inspections for the ships. Now we will see some of the salient regulations which are of importance for today's forum. So we have this regulation 4 from the annex to the convention. So this, it talks about control of ships hazardous materials. So following these four materials, the asbestos, ODS is for ozone depleting substances, PCB means polychlorinated biphenyls, and anti-fouling compounds and systems. Then it goes to TBT, tributylene, and the sibutene. So basically all these four materials are prohibited for use in any ship during new construction or during operation or during repair as well. Then the next, there is a regulation 5. It requires that each new ship has to have a ship specific verified inventory of part 1 inventory of IHM on board. And it also requires existing ships to comply to have the inventory on board within 5 years from the date of ratification. So considering the date of entry into force, all existing ships should have verified part 1 inventory on board before 26 June 2013 or just before going for recycling. So this should be interested. I think forum will be interested. The general requirements for preparation prior to recycling. So if anybody wants to send the ship for recycling, the ship owner has to see these aspects. Which aspects are there? The number 1, the ships destined to be recycled are required to be only recycled at ship recycling facilities that are authorized in accordance with HKC. Carry out pre-cleaning activity in the period prior to entering the ship recycling facility, so as to minimize the amount of cargo residues, remaining fuel oil, and waste remaining on board. In case of tanker, it has to arrive at the ship recycling facility with the cargo tanks and pump rooms in a condition that is ready for certification as safe for entry or safe for hot work, and provide to the ship recycling facility all available information relating to the ship for the development of ship recycling plan. Then it has to complete the inventory and get certified as ready for recycling. So in short, if we sum up this thing, one has to ensure that ship should be sent only to a authorized ship recycling facility, which is compliant to HKC. Pre-cleaning activity is required, that the ship owner should ensure that the ship is cleaned before sending for the recycling. Then third, tanker thing is clear. The fourth is ship recycling facility owner. It is the responsibility of owner to share all the information which is required for developing or preparing the ship recycling plan to ship recycling facility. Then complete the inventory. It means that the owner has to complete part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the inventory of hazardous material, and then get the vessel certified for ready for recycling. So this is in short is required from the ship owner. Regarding ship recycling plan, regulation 9. So development of ship recycling plan is a mandatory requirement for any ship to get the ship recycled. So the requirement is it shall be developed taking into account information provided by ship owner, include information on establishment, maintenance, and monitoring of safe for entry and safe for outward conditions, and how the type and amount of materials, including those identified in the IHM, will be managed. And the ship recycling plan shall be approved by the competent authority, which has authorized the ship recycling facilities. Then regulation 10 is applicable to ships. In general, this initial, renewal and additional survey will happen in the operating period of the ship. And once the ship is decided to be recycled, the final survey will come in picture. After the final survey, ready for recycling certificate is issued to the ship. So this was a brief introduction of HKC. Then we move to the EU regulation. EU regulation is already in force. Sorry, the date is incorrect, but it is in force from 2018. The aim was the early ratification criteria. I think the EU regulation has achieved that its objective. Then applicability is similar to the Hong Kong Convention, except that it is mandatory for non-EU flag ships which are coming to the EU port or EU anchor. They also has to comply with the EU ship recycling regulation. The difference between Hong Kong Convention and EU ship recycling regulation is there are 2 additional materials required for EU flag ships. So these additional materials is PFOS, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid. So this mostly you will find it in AFFF, and if my information is correct, since 1st January 2026, it is being getting prohibited in IMO also. So probably this PFOS will also come in the list of prohibited material of Hong Kong Convention. Then the other material is HBCDD. It is basically a brominated flame retardant. It is used in various components in the ship, especially in the cryogenic insulations and gas tankers and refrigerated areas. So this comes under table B material. So we are not getting into that part of table A, table B. So basically the EU regulation is nothing but it's a we can say at the core it is basically Hong Kong Convention with some additional requirements related to ship recycling facilities and It also requires that EU flagships shall only be recycled in a EU approved list of facilities. So basically at the heart, it is a HKC with some additional requirement. So with this introduction, we'll come to the role of a shipyard, especially the new building shipyard. So henceforth, after the entry into force and according to the definition of new ship as covered in the convention, the shipyard or the shipbuilders are responsible for ensuring that the ships are being delivered or handed over to the owners with verified Part 1 IHM with supplemented with international certificate on IHM. So how do you prepare this Part 1 of IHM? So we will see this process in upcoming slides. Here I am summing up it in a very short manner. So the shipyard has to identify the suppliers, get the material declarations and declaration of conformity from the suppliers. Then shipyard need to verify the presence of prohibited and restricted materials. If any materials present, then they have to list the quantity and location in the Part 1 of IHM. After identifying the materials in Part 1 IHM, shipyard has to develop the Part 1 IHM and offer the vessel for initial survey. And after conducting satisfactory initial survey, ship will be issued with the international certificate on IHM. Yes. So how to prepare this Part 1 IHM? We'll just briefly see this process. So since it is the responsibility of shipbuilder to develop a Part 1 IHM, and the shipbuilder being involved with lot of suppliers and OEMs, it is very difficult for a shipbuilder to investigate presence of hazardous materials by their own. If they have to do this, they have to do the random sampling of every supply, give it to laboratory and then analyze. So it becomes a costly exercise as well as a time consuming exercise. So the convention has set some framework, and convention has given two basically forms. In short, they are called MD. It is for material declaration, and the other one is called SDOC. It's nothing but a supplier's declaration of conformity. So by providing these two forms, shipyard is supposed to, the figure shows here down below, shipyard will request its primary or tier 1 supplier to give information on material declaration and SDOC. If the primary supplier is getting the sub supplies from its vendors or secondary suppliers, he in turn will ask the same information to his suppliers. This chain will follow through, and from the bottom of the chain, the tier 1 supplier will get all the information that about the material declarations and SDOC. Then primary supplier is supposed to give this information to the shipbuilder. So the job of shipbuilder here gets reduced. It's a verification of the material declaration and supplier declaration. By just simple verification, shipyard can know what all prohibited or hazardous materials or restricted materials are present in the equipment or material being supplied from the tier 1 supplier. So what I recently explained, so you can see this, then the chain gets extended. It is a chain reaction. So from this chain, one will filter the verify the MD and SDOC form, filter the presence of hazardous material, and prepare Part 1 of IHM. So what does these forms means? This is a brief explanation of the form. The MD means material declaration form. So it gives what the product contains. It gives information on what the product contains. So in general, the 1 minute, this is not stopping. Okay. So in this form, generally the supplier details are present. The product name, product number, the type of product, the quantity of the product, all details are identified in the form. Followed by there is a verification for table A, B materials. So here is something like this, table A and table B material. So in table A material, 1 minute. If the product contains any hazardous material, so there is a questionnaire in the form. To that form, if the hazardous material is present, here is one example. Down below, you can see here, table B, mercury and mercury compounds. If the material exceeds the threshold value, the response is given yes. And if yes, what is the quantity of the hazardous material is present, and in which item and which location that hazardous material present. So detailed information is available in material declaration form. So this detailed information is further this authenticated from the supplier's declaration. So by signing this supplier's declaration form, the supplier is legally bound to accept that whatever the declaration he has made is true and correct. So normally this MD form and SDOC form, they are interlinked with unique SDOC number. So as long I was referring to table and table B materials. So these are the basically table A materials. These materials are prohibited for use if they are present above threshold values mentioned in the third column. Okay, and if the compliance is for EU ship recycling regulation, we have to take care of PFOS as well. So these are table A materials, these are prohibited. And on the right side, if you see now, these are table B materials. These materials, use of these materials is restricted. It means that these materials can be used. However, if they are crossing the threshold values, respective threshold values, they are supposed to be listed in part 1 of IHM. And vice versa, if the threshold value is below these values, then they can be used, but they need not be listed in part 1 of IHM. I hope this is clear to the participants. So after verification of material declaration and present of hazardous material, this is one standard format which is given in the convention, in the guidelines. So this is basically part 1. So how this is one standard format, how the IHM will look, and what is the part 1 is there. So part 1 is further segregated into 3 parts. This is part 1, subpart 2, and there is a subpart 3 that is not covered here. So it gives information on what is the name or the which component what is its location, where it is installed, which material is present, and where it is used, and what is the quantity. So I think this is clear. So this standard format is available in MEPC guideline 379/80. Once the part 1 IHM is developed, it is a good practice to visually describe this part 1 IHM. So generally location diagram for part 1 hazardous material is prepared in such a manner. Here you can see bottom there is a presence of anti-fouling paint shown. So likewise these numbers are correlated with the part 1 IHM. So it is easy for anybody to see that which hazardous materials are present in which location. So this is one general process for development of IHM for new ships. So the shipbuilder places written request to the suppliers for MD and SDOC. Suppliers are responsible for drawing up MD and SDOC and send it to the shipbuilder. Shipbuilder is responsible for checking the accuracy of information. And if not correct, then he can again request back to the shipbuilder or refuse the delivery of the material if the prohibited materials are present. And if after getting the correct information, shipbuilder is responsible for collecting all MD and SDOC together. Then complete part 1 of IHM and offer vessel for initial survey to the flag or RO. Then get part 1 approved, followed by issuance of ICIHM or statement of compliance, and hand over this part 1 IHM and certificate to the prospective ship owner for further maintenance and update. So this is something important for shipyard. What is the role of shipyard? So in new build ship, shipyard has to go for developing or go for making a policy on procurement of item procurements. Shipyard has to identify a person who is responsible for requesting MD and SDOC, getting its verification and development of part 1 IHM. Then shipyard has to also, in its policy, they have to ensure that there is a awareness amongst the people on the use of prohibited restricted material. And where in suspicion, shipyard should have the random sampling checks using the accredited laboratories. So shipyard should implement one kind of a procurement policy and then get it integrated with its quality management system, so that there is the accountability is there and the record keeping is maintained within the organization. Then shipyard is also supposed to map the accuracy of the location, quantity, and the correct description of the items which are listed in part 1 of IHM, and have a procedure for proper handover to the ship owner or the company for future update and maintenance. So as a shipyard, this is an important thing. And in fact, as a IRS, we have written to several shipyards for implementing these policies and integrating these policies with the their QMS. So with this, I think I am not overshooted the times. So we come up with this end of presentation, and I'm now giving back to the organizers. We can have a question and answer session subsequent to this presentation.
Thank you, sir. It was a very informative talk.
Thank you,
I would
sir.
request the audience, they can just put their questions on Q&A. Meanwhile, it's my privilege to request our chief guest, Mr. Neogi, to offer us comments and insights on this topic.
Thank you, Dr. Iyengar, and thank you, Mr. Amol Bhaskar. It's a really well-defined and a beautiful presentation. I have nothing much to say because you've covered practically everything in this presentation. And for the attendees, I'll just give a 5-minute talk, perhaps, and that would be, as far as I know, and as rightly I've seen in one of the graph, that currently India is recycling is around 30% of the world, which I believe India intends to take it up to 60%. And and how is that possible? They have 95 out of 135 plots in Alang, which is the biggest breaking yard is being developing as per the Hong Kong Convention. So that's one of the biggest things that I've thought we should just share. And for the attendees, one more thing, just to summarize it, I would say that what drives for these ship recycling? Basically, it is the stringent ship and life regulation is one. Then there's a huge demand for, number two would be the metal scrap. There's a huge demand for metal scrap. And thirdly would be, of course, every ship's with its aging fleet and for vessel replacement, but the company feels if we should replace the vessel. These 3 points definitely leads to recycling of ships. However, having said that, there would be some constraints, and basically that is the lack of environmental safety, which again was addressed very well in the presentation, especially in pollution while dismantling. And second thing is, of course, is the hazardous waste management. We're not talking of the material, but the waste management itself. This can create a lot of problems, and therefore all these various steps have been taken to ensure that the shipbuilding facility in India is improving. And one more thing I would like to just say out here is, while you're doing this ship recycling, one can imagine the amount of natural resources we are saving when you're compared to steel making, where we would need iron ore and coal. Recycling of this also saves a lot of the natural resources. And as pointed out, with these hot roll mills and whatever the other kind of facilities, we do save a lot of natural resources. So that's another big advantage out there. And lastly, I would say is for these, besides then all this economical growth and the other factors involved in the shipping line, there's one factor that comes into my mind, having me being in the Indian Maritime University, is how recycled ships helps cadets who are going to go out at sea also learn a lot, because these recycled ships, when they're dismantled into pieces, the machineries are practically at second-hand prices or much even lower than that. And institutions have been buying them. Like I myself have seen a lot of these institutions who have bought turbochargers, who have brought freshwater generators, cylinder liners, and then how they're being measured. So it's a very good, easy way, rather than it's very difficult for them to go on a ship for a ship visit, whereas these things are coming easily to them and they get a very big and a very important exposure. So these are where my points, besides than what Mr. Amol Bhaskar Bande has already mentioned. And of course, he's also mentioned one of the most important things is the health hazard. And how does the health hazard come? That's basically from smoke and fumes, as well as from the toxic waste when one is dismantling all these things. So, and before I sum up, I would just ask Mr. Amol Bhaskar to once again address a bit on the Basel Convention, which I think one could also address that point. Thank you very much for giving me this chance, and thank you everybody for this wonderful session that I've been invited to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your perspectives. Mr. Bande, would you like to tell some comment on the Basel Convention before we go to the
Yeah, I can address the Basel Convention as well. So Basel Convention is basically controls on transboundary movement of the hazardous waste. And that is between the countries of OECD countries and non-OECD countries. Okay. So in line with the Basel Convention, there is a parallel regulation from the EU, that EU waste shipment regulation. Okay. So now this convention, Basel Convention, it says that any hazardous waste should not be transferred from OECD countries to non-OECD countries. So here the ship itself becomes one of kind of a hazardous waste as far as Basel Convention is concerned. So Basel Convention has came into force well before the Hong Kong Convention. And now Hong Kong Convention allows that it doesn't say anything about the Basel Convention, but then as far as Hong Kong Convention is concerned, the waste inside the ship is something is a waste and not the ship as such a waste. Okay. So there is some conflict between the Basel Convention and the Hong Kong Convention, and that is further aggravated with the introduction of Basel Ban Amendment in 2019. So currently at the level of IMO and United Nations, there are some talks going on to address this aspect so that the ships which are from the OECD countries uh, can come to non-OECD countries, and even in European Parliament, the discussions are going on regarding EU waste shipment regulation and giving the effect of EU ship recycling regulation superseding the EU waste shipment regulation. So I think that will give some clarity, and our Indian ship recycling yards, they can undertake European flag ship recycling very soon. So that is somewhere that clarity has to come from the IMO. So there are more topic for discussion on this aspect, but I think for this today's forum, I think this much is sufficient.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I would welcome Mr. Kamal Palit, who was also the ex-president of INA, to the panel, and he has posed two questions. So you can ask your questions as well as give your perspectives, Mr. Palit. Mr. Palit, you can ask your questions as well as give your perspective. Mr. Palit has a difficulty in the connection. So I'll read his question. Has the recycling convention been ratified by the Indian government? That is his question.
Yeah, the Hong Kong Convention is already ratified by Government of India. It was well acceded in 2018 itself, end of 2018, to be precise.
The other question from Mr. Palit is the recycling convention related with the MEPC convention? He just wanted to know.
Can you repeat, sir, again?
Is the recycling convention related with the MEPC convention?
MEPC, just correct me if I'm wrong, is it MEPC convention?
Yes.
So MEPC is basically, it's a guideline guideline to the convention. Basically, the convention is at the top of hierarchy, followed by the annex to convention, and annex to convention we have the 6 guidelines of MEPC. So MEPC we can say is a subset of the means what is covered by the convention. It's the implementary part of the convention. I hope I address this question, because there is nothing like a MEPC convention. So
now Mr. Rahul Verma has joined us. You can pose your question, sir.
Yes, Mr. Amol, thank you as usual for a very great insight. So can you tell me that by June 25, once HKC is fully implemented and enforced, what would change in any way, in Alang at least? What would change after June 25?
okay, so if you see on the regulatory front, okay, regulatory front, the Recycling of Ships Act 2019, it has given 2 entities who are responsible to oversee this ship recycling activity in India. So as far as there is a formulation of national authority national authority, it is headquartered in, I think, Gandhinagar in Gujarat. So this national authority, then there is another term used in the Recycling Act is a competent authority. So now this competent authority will be responsible to oversee ship recycling activities in their jurisdiction. Now here, if we say, take example of Gujarat, currently the ship recycling activity is taken care by Gujarat Maritime Board, GMB. So probably when the regulations on ship recycling will come in upcoming time, So there may be a declaration from the, or maybe an announcement from the government, who is the competent authority who will be responsible for ship recycling. So the regulation itself is the Recycling of Ships Act. It provides you a authority who can take care of, or who can be approached for any issue related to recycling of ships in their jurisdiction. Then second aspect, what I can see, there will be somewhat a change in process, because the yards which are HKC compliant, they will be required to accept the ships which are only HKC compliant. Okay. So, and to accept those ships, the first ship has to undergo a final surveys and has to have a IRRC, that is International Ready for Recycling Certificate, available with them on board. Okay. So to have that certificate, again, the owner has to identify the ship recycling facility. Okay. So the ship recycling facility has to be HKC compliant. So there is the convention has ensured that both the entities, the ship and the ship recycling facilities, are HKC compliant. Correct. Currently, that is not the practice. So this will change, and the competent authorities will require to approve the ship recycling plan. So preparation of ship recycling plan becomes a kind of a mandatory activity, and getting it approved from its competent authority is another activity which will change in after the entry into force criteria.
Right, sir.
Right.
So apart from these regulatory measures, do you expect any changes in the yard itself?
So see, changes as such, if I say we are going through that MEPC guideline, the yard has to get the HKC compliance. In order to get it HKC compliance, definitely they has to implement the measures which are specified in the MEPC guideline 21063. So to implement that measures, the implementation has to be verified, or somebody has to endorse that implementation. So it becomes like a auditing kind of exercise, where the facilities will be audited, and every audit, you have some opportunities for improvement, or continual improvement process starts with the auditing. So you can see differences will coming, or the changes will start appearing as soon as any facility which is not audited previously being started getting regularly audited. So the gradual changes will start coming up, and maybe down the line 5 years or some more years, you will see a lot of difference in the practices related to health, related to safety, and related to environment addressed by the Hong Kong Convention. From my personal experience, the facilities which we have seen in year around 2009, 2010, if we go today, we can see a lot of difference, almost a 180-degree difference to our eyes, because what we have seen the past. But somebody who is a fresh, who is a novice, if he goes as on date today, he might see the difference, a lot of difference down the line 5 years. So that will definitely change.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Palit has a follow-on question.
Okay.
Who is the competent authority in India for recycling convention?
Okay. So, sir, competent authority as of now are not announced officially by the government. Okay. But currently the trend is all the state maritime boards, or the port authorities, captain of port, they are the basically considered as competent authority for ship recycling.
So I'll just check if there are any more questions.
So there are few feedback questions in the chat also, if you want to take.
Yeah. I think Mr. Emil Matthew has a question, I think. Can you just read the question, Amir? Yeah. Mr. Emil Matthew, you can just ask your question. Mr. Matthew, you can ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. Shami, can you just read his question? I mean, somehow there's some problem.
Sure, sir. So Mr. Emil Matthew is saying that good evening. What will be the next step if the IHM cross beyond the threshold?
Uh, okay, so I'll just correct this statement. It appears that the what will be the next step if the material declaration cross beyond the threshold. This should be the I think correct question. Correct me if I am wrong, Mr. Matthew. I think he's not there. But
Yes,
anyway,
No, I agree with you sir, on that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So if the material declarations, we have seen there are two actually tables. There is one table A, which is for prohibited materials, and there is a table B is for restricted materials. So as far as table A, the materials which are prohibited, if they are crossing the threshold values, it is a simple understanding that they are not to be used anymore. Okay, so they should not get inside the ship and straight away rejected by the shipyard. As far as table B materials, these are the restricted materials. They are allowed to be used on board ship, but if they are crossing the threshold values, okay, no problem. We can accept those materials or the items, but then the presence of that materials has to be mentioned in the part 1 list of IHM. And vice versa for table B, if any material is below the threshold value, then that need not even listed in part 1 IHM. So this is about the question.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? I think that probably completes the question and answer
So
session.
there's just one thing I would like to add.
Yes,
and
please.
that is, I think, Mr. Amol, if you can just correct me on that. I think once after June 2025, the recycler also gets a certification. That certification would again has to be recertified after every 5 years.
Yes, sir. As far as the convention is concerned, there is a intermediate surveillance is required between the 5 years period. But many flag states, they recommend that it has to have an annual surveillance so as to improve upon the and keep the monitoring of a ship recycling yard. But definitely after 5 years, there is a renewal of certification. So that will be covered with a renewal audit scope.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think there are no further questions and very insightful question answer session also. Now I would request Dr. Manu Kurula, who is the president of IME, to offer his perspective on the topics.
Thank you, Dr. Bharadwaj. It has been a wonderful session, a new area, which is generally not known to people, and one of the interesting area has been covered. That's very good. I appreciate all those who have made this topic to be today's point of discussion. I appreciate them at the outset. Now, I have seen that both the presenter and chief guest both were totally involved in this activity, and they had 100% knowledge about the whole process. And wherein though, many of us naval architects, we know how a ship is built, but how a ship is recycled, no, we all know that it has to be recycled. This was not known. Again, the information brought in by the speaker, they were quite new for me. Though I was knowing many things about recycling and I have seen along. And, about the statistics is quite interesting. What I have seen in India, though the first two category of tanker and the bulkers, the total quantity is lower than, what is there in Bangladesh or Pakistan. When we go down, multiple class of, specialized class of ships are recycled mostly in India, if you look at. So this says that, the recycling of multivarious classes of ship is more popular. Our skill sets are better for recycling. This is something which I have noticed from your statistics what you have presented. Then, of course, this also is an interesting thing to know that, Hong Kong Convention from 26 June 2025. So this particular lecture is correctly positioned. This is coming into force. And I feel it is a lot of opportunity for naval architects. Yet another chapter for the surveyors, auditors, and there is a new chapter that is coming in. Safety and safe recycling has been a point of concern for almost all the countries, how we can safely recycle and use it. Now, these conventions, I think it will ensure that we are safe while the ship recycling industry can flourish. Probably other than Alang also people can look at it, because this concern from the other states in the country that will come off, and safer recycling will make this industry more popular. I think we'll have better business in the coming years. And as a professional naval architect, it looks to me now there is a lot of things a naval architect can do for improving, this possibility of this industry. That is yet another point. The presenter could bring in amply the, the importance like the employment possibilities, as well as the opportunities of using recycle systems. He has also brought in the regulations that are applicable, both Hong Kong and European Union Convention. I was not exactly sure, though 2008 was a known date, what was happening thereafter till 25, in between what was happening, this was not known to me. I think it is the same with many of our co-naval architects. Then this idea that you have to have recycling plan ab initio. While planning, the design stage itself, you should have recycling plan as well. This is something, everybody should understand, and this is very important. Now, 2005 onwards, I feel this is a sort of total, this has come as a major part in the total life cycle management, and it will be initial stage of ship design itself. What is the recycling plan and what all things are hazardous? This has to be identified. And whenever something is coming in, going out, like I remember many of the ships were, painted with self-polishing copolymer. Now that is no more a system which can be, applied to any of the ships. So there are so many things what was yesterday, which was applied on the ships, which are not supposed to be applied today. So these systems, while going for recycling, what is the status? They have to scrape off and take it for, recycling. This sort of few questions are there. And some of the terms what he has brought in, deconstruction. Deconstruction, it's like construction and deconstruction, shipbuilding and de-shipbuilding. And it is not a destruction. You see, this ship recycling cannot be taken as a destructive activity. It has to be called as deconstruction. With all these rules and regulations, we will make it a healthy industry, which is sustainable and which will not pollute the whole environment. I really appreciate the knowledge that you have shared, sir. I'm sure IRS in the coming days will have a major role to play. You have to educate the industry, the entire stakeholders towards this. I really thank you and appreciate you for this wonderful lecture and the initiatives that IRS is taking for taking the country forward in this direction. I am also very happy and thankful to the chief guest. He has brought in another angle, the benefit that the students community, the researchers, students, and who are venturing into technology of all these systems that they are getting a look at internal to whatever is the ship and its machinery. they are able to look at it because these recycle systems are available for them. This point is that is a wonderful point, and that is a possibility for all those who are there in the field to know. It is like human, the MBBS students, when they learn from human body. It's like that these ships are used, and they'll be able to learn it well by looking at it. That angle has been, brought out by our chief guest, and he was answering few questions and helping us. I thank you, sir, and I'm sure your students will immensely benefit from your vivid outlook and vision. We hope that, sir, you will encourage them to attend to our monthly lecture programs. These are all related to ships and its associated activities. I'll be really happy, sir, if you could encourage them to attend these classes, and your presence as a panelist in our forthcoming lecture series will be really encouraging for us. IMU as such is doing immense service to this industry by training people across the technological sectors of the seafarers and people. It's a big industry now. The whole country is looking at how we can improve and how we can a 30 trillion economy by 2047 through sea. So all of us have to train large number of people to make the dream of our Prime Minister and the nation. I am sure you will, we will a little at least we'll be able to contribute by synergizing all those knowledge and systems that we have for empowering the younger generation in this direction. I really congratulate Soumitra Neogi, Professor Soumitra Neogi, and we are looking forward to have your patronage and participation in our activities, sir. I also thank all the panelists. I think they have very relevant questions they have asked, and they were actively participating. We also had students from Cochin University and IMU Visakhapatnam participating. They had given me a call, and so they were all together sitting and listening to it. Though the number of participants what we have seen only is the tip of the iceberg. A lot of people were listening to it. I'm sure they can all come back with more questions to Amol Saab for getting more clarity. Some students were asking whether the youngsters, any startup mission is possible for ship breaking. So you could tell, throw some light on this, whether for the youngsters, some startup is possible for, in the ship breaking, or is it only at Alang it is possible, at other part of the country, whether it is possible or not. So there are few more questions. A lot of questions is coming up. Probably we may have to answer for all these things. If you permit us, we will share your mail ID or an alternate mail ID for asking questions, because a lot of questions comes in when people start thinking about it, as you have started and brought in a new dimension. I really appreciate Dr. Bharadwaj Srinivasan for bringing in the topic of relevance today, and continued effort in having this lecture program effortlessly being telecasted, and large number of our INA friends, they want to participate in this. Now, Kolkata chapter today only, they all wanted to see. I think they are together sitting and seeing it. Palit sir is initiating this. I thank Palit sir also. Once again, I thank all INA office bearers, management committee members, especially our friend Amir Ahmed, who has made it a point to have this session seamlessly made it possible. Thank you once again to each and every one of you. Wishing you a wonderful new year ahead. I hope we will be able to meet and have one more lecture prior to celebrating the 2025 New Year. Otherwise, till we meet again, wonderful days ahead, sir. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful summing up and bringing a perspective, sir. With your permission, I'd just like to extend the session. One of our senior professionals, Mr. Kalgatti, has raised his hand. So I would request you to speak, sir. Yeah.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Engg, for giving me opportunity after after summing up. I don't know whether it is in right perspective to say something.
It's okay, sir. Please, sir.
To Dr. Manu Korela, allow me to say a couple of things. I'll not take much time. Before I say something, I thank Mr. Amol Bande for acknowledging that I have played a little bit role in his exposure to this particular convention.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations to you for excellent presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And I'm deeply honored to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just two things I would like to add to your very comprehensive presentation which you made. The first thing is, for a new ship, definitely when the IHM is prepared, there won't be any presence of asbestos. That goes without saying, because use of asbestos is totally prohibited. The IHM, it plays a very important role for an existing ship, because any presence of asbestos has to be marked with the plan and the quantity shown in the IHM document for an existing ship. Because when the IHM is prepared, the person who prepared this, he's approved by either you or somebody who prepares the IHM, and he takes out a sample from the suspected area and says that this much is the anticipated or estimated asbestos in a particular panel. And there are one or two approved asbestos labs in India which are approved by IMO, and the sample has to be sent to the lab to detect the presence, and the IHM document should include what is the presence of or how much quantity of asbestos is present. This is especially true in case of an existing ship which is built about 15 or 20 years ago and ready for ship recycling now. That is number one. Number two, Mr. Palit asked about competent authority. If my memory goes right, I think in case of, since the ship recycling is going to be, usually it is done in Alang, the competent authority in this case is GMB. Mr. Amol Bande rightly said the individual state maritime boards are competent authorities. But having said that, and the fact remains that the Alang is a major contributor to the ship recycle. GMB is the competent authority in this particular case. I think I just wanted to highlight these two aspects. And thank you once again, Mr. Amol Bande. And thank you, Dr. Engg, for giving me an opportunity to just say my version of the whole presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Your experience, your perspectives and comments are always welcome, sir. With that, summing up and all the comments, perhaps with the permission of the chief guest, I would like to offer the vote of thanks towards the end of the session. My first thanks is to Mr. Soumitra Neogi, who has been the chief guest and also gave his perspective and also actively participated in the Q&A sessions offering comments. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your erudition.
Thank you, sir. It was an honor. It was an honor indeed.
And a very interesting presentation by Mr. Amol Bande, and your knowledge of the subject shown through, it was shining all through the presentation. Thank you, sir. And as Dr. Manu Korela has told, this had a lot of participants. Even though the number of usernames were 13, they were all sitting in a hall, so it just showed us one username. But there were 20 students, so we had probably a large number of participants, maybe nearing 70 if you include all those students. And we thank all those participants. And My thanks to Mr. H.V. Ramesh, because when this topic occurred to me maybe a month back, I was just messaging him who will be the appropriate person to talk on that. And so I should thank him to identify the right speaker. So my thanks formally to Mr. H.V. Ramesh.
Thank you, sir.
And
And I will surely take up the questions from the students as well as who is interested in having the exploring the opportunities for any kind of startup kind of a thing, and whether the ship recycling industry or the ecosystem can be leveraged to other part of the country as well.
Sure, sir. And we thank Mr. Palit, Mr. Kalgatti, and Mr. Who had offered their comments and questions, as well as Mr. Verma, who was participating in the question and answer session. And all the INA EC members and the other participants. I thank the students, the other participants who made this session very useful, and actually they encourage me to do this every month. And my thanks to Mr. Amir, who's been the complete back-end technical, and he's the administrative and technical secretary of INA, and he's completely in the background of doing all these things. And Ms. Selvi, who manages our office and ensures that our office runs properly. Thanks to them, and thanks to all the EC members. Have a great weekend, and surely we'll be having one more session in December, just before the New Year. And certainly I'll send the invitations to all to join. And thanks, and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and the session can close.
Thank
and
you,
have a
sir.
great